Sentire Media.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of A New Life in Italy, the podcast where we dive into everything you need to know about living, working, and thriving in Italy. I'm Samantha Wilson, and today we're talking about one of the most important steps in making Italy your home, and that is finding the right visa to fit your needs. And if you're not Italian or European, then the ability to move to Italy for longer than 90 days will depend on whether or not you can qualify and successfully apply for a visa. Now, let's face it, Italy has a lot of different visas, each with its own rules and requirements and fine print, which can make it kind of confusing. And it's critical that you evaluate your own situation and choose the best visa that fits what you want to do. So today we are going to look at 3 of the most popular visas for people considering moving to Italy. And that is the Elective Residency Visa, the Student Visa, and the Digital Nomad Visa. We will break down who each visa is best suited for, the pros and the cons to them, and some of the key challenges that applicants face. I will also share some tips to get you through it all successfully. So if you're ready to turn your Italian dream into reality but need the keys to unlock the door, hang in there because this episode is for you. I'm Samantha Wilson, Chief Dreammaker at smartmoveitaly.com, and this is A New Life in Italy, a show where each week I take you behind the scenes of what it's really like to move to Italy, introduce you to some fascinating people, answer your questions, and show you how starting a new life in Bel Paese is possible for you. All right, let's start by getting clear on what a visa is. Basically, a visa is an endorsement in your passport that allows you to enter, leave, or stay in a specific place for a specific period of time. And that would be a place or a country that you don't have citizenship already for. In Italy, a visa will allow you to enter and stay in Italy to do specific things. What those things are will depend on the kind of visa that you get. If you want to work in Italy, you will need a visa that permits work, for example. If you want to study, then you need a visa that permits you to study, and so on. And you can't get a visa for one reason and then do something else. You have to qualify for the specific visa and then follow the rules that come with it. In Italy, you will get a visa for stays for more than 90 days because in most cases, people can stay for 90 days without a visa. Any visas over 90 days, in most cases, are called a National D visa or long stay visa. Now, this visa type is for several different reasons. For example, a National D visa also is your Elective Residency Visa or your Study Visa or your Digital Nomad Visa. They're all National D visas, even though we call them different things. And we call them different names because it helps us remember what you get them for. So the visa is essentially the key. It unlocks the door to enter Italy and apply for a Permesso di Soggiorno. And this is a permit of stay. And you must apply for a permit of stay within 8 days of arriving on a visa. The permit of stay will mirror the terms of the visa. And if your permit is renewable, then you will continue to renew the permit every single year, not the visa. Because once you've used the key, which is the visa, once you've used the key to unlock the door, then it's the Permesso di Soggiorno that has the authority to keep you here. It's the Permesso di Soggiorno that allows you to stay, not the visa, because the visa will expire after 1 year usually. So the first step is to select the right key or visa to open the right door to enter Italy and do the things that you want to do. Make sense? Okay, so let's talk about the different visa options or the different kinds of keys that you can get and see which one fits you best. Let's start with the Elective Residency Visa, or as many people like to call it, the Retirement Visa. Now, this visa is one of the most popular options for people who have a stable, passive income. In other words, they don't need to work in Italy, and they want to just move here, retire, and enjoy the Italian lifestyle. Basically, this is a visa for retired people because you cannot work. And although it's not written that you have to be retirement age, in fact, anyone over 18 can actually apply for this visa. But the key is that you need a passive income, and this income will often be pensions or annuity or Social Security. So the income has to be regular, reliable, and guaranteed for life. And because you need to have this specific kind of income, it usually applies to retired people. Here are the key eligibility criteria for the Elective Residency Visa. First, the most important is the financial requirement. Do not underestimate this one. What you see online and even on the consulate websites is not actually what they follow in practice. They're guidelines. You will need a minimum of 32,000 net euros per year per person when applying. This is the very bare minimum. Now, if you're married, each of you must apply for the ERV. You don't apply for one visa and then the other one piggybacks. Each of you need to qualify for the Elective Residency Visa. Although you can combine income, you must have at least enough for 32,000 per person. So what's that? 64,000 net euros a year at the bare minimum. If you have a mortgage payment, then you need to deduct this from your income because it isn't your net income. You need to make sure you take those expenses into account when you're factoring in what your actual net income is. In addition, you will need to show that you have substantial wealth. So this will include other assets like savings accounts, pension funds, or something else to back it up. Drawdowns from a retirement fund do not typically pass for the Elective Residency Visa. Now, I know some of you are feeling a little disheartened when you're hearing that, but the truth is what you need is regular, reliable, guaranteed income for life. We also call this kind of anchor income. That's Social Security, government pension, annuity. Even rental income is considered guaranteed for some strange reason. But this money that you need to show, the passive income, has to be something that you cannot touch. That if you came to Italy and you sat in a piazza and you drank wine all day, the money that you're receiving will continue to hit your bank account no matter what you do. You don't need to answer the phone. You don't need to make a decision. This money will just continue to come no matter what happens in the market. Where drawdowns on retirement funds have two elements that we are a little bit worried about. One is that if you come to Italy and you fall in love with a huge villa, you can technically cash out all of your retirement funds and use it to buy the villa and no longer have anything to live on in Italy. So it's not guaranteed. It's not reliable because you can actually spend it all and therefore no longer have any more passive income. And the other reason is consulates often look at any kind of investment fund or retirement fund as a little bit volatile. So what you're getting now may not be the same as what you're getting in the future, where anchor income like Social Security or government pensions or disabilities or annuities, these things are locked in. There's nothing you can do to change them. They are what they are, and you will get them year over year. Now, if you have the funds in order, you have this passive income, the next thing that you need is a place to live before you apply for the visa. This can be a rental or a purchase, but you need to secure this in advance of applying for the visa. And check out last week's podcast on how to get a rental for a visa for more information on this subject because it's often quite confused for a lot of people. Now, this is the key requirement that can be a hurdle for a lot of people, and it can often delay your application. So make sure that you plan wisely because an Airbnb or a hotel room will not work. You need to have something official. Also, for the Elective Residency Visa, you are not permitted to work in any way. Not online, not consulting, not opening a B&B in Italy, nothing. You cannot be working even for a foreign company doing consulting. You can't be doing anything here when you are on the Elective Residency Visa. You can't have any income from any activity at all other than your pensionable income or your regular passive income. Now, here are the problems that most people get into when applying for the Elective Residency Visa. First, they underestimate the financial requirement. They either do not prepare their application with enough supporting documents, or they simply do not have passive income, or they have only retirement drawdowns, these kinds of income. This will not work for your elective residency visa. It is a challenge for a lot of people who may have a lot of money in the bank or in a retirement fund, but not that passive income, regular, reliable, guaranteed income stream. In fact, I've seen applicants with millions in funds be denied the visa due to the fact that the source of the income is not guaranteed. And then I see others with government pensions of maybe 35 or 40,000 euros and only a few $100,000 in retirement funds, but they get approved. And that's because the source of the income is critical. Also, do not get stopped up on the rental search. Try to find your forever home, and before you do the visa is probably not a good idea. Just find something that works, something that you like, and that it's in the location that you want. Just rent it, apply for your visa, and then consider moving later. The best advice for this visa I can give you, and I do hundreds and hundreds of elective residency visas every year, the best advice is to prepare and do not underestimate the discretionary nature of the consulate's decision-making process. Do not dive down the internet rabbit hole and think you can follow the advice of other people. You need to focus on your own situation all the time. And when possible, get help, or at least get a review before applying. There are many little quirks to this visa that can stop you up. Now, if you're one of those who simply do not have passive income but have cash, I suggest that you seriously consider the investor visa. This is without a doubt the best visa for Italy, and a lot of our elective residency visa candidates end up opting for the investor visa when we weigh the two options side by side. Now, I cover the investor visa in more detail in episode 2 of this season of My Favorite Visa. Okay, now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the student visa, another really popular visa, but one with a lot of misconceptions on the ease of getting it. First, the student visa is a fantastic option for younger people or anyone who wants to study in Italy. Now, this is a visa that many of the Instagrammers or the influencers that you might see online originally arrived here on, and they may have been here for a while. They used the visa to unlock the door and then later stayed and converted their Permesso for student into a Permesso for self-employed. However, things have changed, my friends, and this visa is not as easy to get as it once was. So first, who is the student visa for? Well, the student visa is ideal for people who have been accepted to an Italian school, a university, even a language program, or other formal education institutions. It is a popular choice for younger people who want to study university in Italy, or someone looking to complete their master's degree because they already have a history of studying a specific subject. However, if you're considering applying for a student visa to study Italian languages and you have no previous studying at all or very little formal training, it is highly unlikely that you will not succeed in getting this visa. And why? Well, you have to convince the consulate, why do you have to move to Italy to study Italian? So think about that question. Really, why do you have to move to Italy to study Italian if you've never studied it before? If you haven't studied it all in the past, it's a very, very hard argument. In almost every case, you will need to be at least a level B1, which is like lower intermediate, sometimes an A2, but usually you'll need a B1 lower intermediate level with a CILS certificate, which is an official certificate proving that you truly are at the B1 level. Without this, the chances of success are slim to none these days. Now, if you fall into the other camp and are enrolling in a course or qualify for a language pathway, you must first be enrolled in a recognized educational institution in Italy. So you'll need to show that you have enough funds to support yourself during your studies. And this amount varies, but typically you need to show around $8,000 for the year. You have to show that, how are you going to live, how are you going to support yourself when you're here studying in Italy? If you can qualify for the student visa, there are some pretty good perks, actually. First, you can work. You can work up to 20 hours a week on the student visa. And if you're lucky, you might also be able to convert your Permesso di Soggiorno, the student visa Permesso di Soggiorno, for a Permesso di Soggiorno to work afterwards. This is what a lot of people like to do, is come in on the student visa and then convert their Permesso to a work Permesso. Now, if you're a student visa holder and enrolled in a course that is more than 12 months long, and you're married, you can actually even bring your spouse in, and your spouse can get a Permesso di Soggiorno based on the fact that they are married to a visa holder with a student visa of more than 12 months. But it has to be at least 12 months or more, or else it's not possible. Now, when your spouse comes in, your spouse is able to work in Italy while you go to school. Now, here's where people go wrong for the student visa. The biggest mistake is thinking that any course will qualify and that you can simply ask to study Italian in Italy and be granted the visa without any prior formal training or testing. Many consulates, as I said before, will ask for proof of this certificate prior to allowing you to even make the appointment. They'll gatekeep it at the beginning. So it's a very common mistake that you should avoid. The next is making sure that you have a place to live in advance of the visa. Just like the elective residency visa, you will need a place for the student visa as well. So plan well in advance, because the student visa is usually tied to specific intake times, so specific course start and end times throughout the year. So there's a little more planning that needs to be done with this visa. And often universities will help you with this visa. It's not a difficult visa to put together if you have the criteria, but definitely you have to make sure to avoid those two biggest mistakes. All right, are you still with me? What if you don't want to go back to school, or you're not retired and maybe you still want to work? What are your options? Well, the good news is Italy has opened a new visa this year in 2024, and it's called the Digital Nomad Visa. And it's proving to be a pretty good solution for many people who otherwise had no way to unlock the door. So let's talk about it. The Digital Nomad Visa is a great option for remote workers who want to live in Italy while working as either an employee for a company or as a digital nomad, which means you work for yourself, but you have contracts with clients that you're doing the work with. So think like online counselor, a consultant, a trainer, these kinds of things. The unique thing about this visa is the need to hold a degree of at least 3 years or have significant experience in your field. The latter one, the significant experience in your field, is a little harder to convince a consulate, so it's always better if you hold a degree to lead with that. So again, if you have a degree and you've been working as in the remote capacity for at least 6 months, then this could be the perfect visa. It allows you to move to Italy to work and have the freedom of a freelancer. Now, although there have been just a handful of DNVs issued so far, if you're listening to this podcast today, this is proving to be a pretty good visa. So here are the key things to consider. First, if you are a remote worker, meaning that you are employed by a foreign company and you get a paycheck, this is a remote worker. You will need to prove that you're a remote worker. And this means you need an authorization letter from your employer, and you need permission that you're allowed to work remotely from Italy. Now, the other proof that you'll need is paychecks, letters, contracts, or similar documents just to prove that you truly are employed and have been for at least 6 months. The next thing that you need to provide is that you are making enough money. Now, the DNV only requires around 28,000 euros annually, and it can be a combination of your activities, not just the activity that you're doing for this visa. However, always shoot for higher, because most foreigners will need to satisfy more than 28,000 euros a year. You will also need a place to live in advance of applying, just like the ERV, just like the student visa. So be sure to listen to last week's podcast to help you get over that rental hurdle if that is your choice. The best part about this visa is that it gives you the flexibility to live in Italy without the need for a local job. And it allows you to experience the Italian lifestyle while maintaining your current work. And if you're married, you can also bring your spouse in. So only one of you would need the visa and the other one can arrive and work. The downside of this visa is the tax compliance. Digital nomads will need to set up something called a partita IVA, which is like a little company. It's a VAT number, an Italian company. And that means that you have to abide by local tax laws, which can be complex. Now, if you're an employee, this is a little bit easier because your employer in your foreign company will take care of most of the deductions and the taxes. But if not, then you need to prepare for this very cumbersome bureaucratic step. And also you'll be paying taxes on the income that you're earning in Italy. Now, the other downside is the need for a degree. And although there are provisions for work experience, weight will be put on a degree. So check out this past podcast, the update that I did on the Digital Nomad Visa, for more information about that. Now, the good thing about the Digital Nomad Visa is that your spouse, as I said, if you are married, legally married with a marriage certificate, your spouse can also come with you. So they're going to join you on the visa and you will both apply for Permesso di Soggiorno based on the fact that they are married to a visa holder. The spouse will gain the right to work anywhere in Italy, not as a remote worker, but actually take any job. So this is almost like a 2-for-1 visa that can be really good for a gap year in Italy or even a lifetime, whichever you prefer. Keep in mind that this visa is still evolving, so requirements may shift, the renewal process may change somewhat, but right now, initially, when you're thinking about it, and if you're comparing a self-employment visa, for example, to the Digital Nomad Visa, always lean to the Digital Nomad Visa. Well, there you have it, 3 of the most popular visas for Italy. Which one is best for you? Now, every visa or key will unlock the door for different reasons. Again, the ERV will let you retire in Italy. You cannot work, and instead you have to have enough passive income to live without the need for support from Italy. The student visa, on the other hand, is best for people who already have a level of education that they want to enhance by moving and studying in Italy. Remember, if you're a beginner Italian learner, this visa is not for you. You have to be more advanced and prove it. Instead, perhaps think about the Digital Nomad Visa. This is the key to unlock the door to your dolce vita for many people. You can move, you can work, and enjoy everything Italy has to offer, and your spouse can tag along and get the same rights as you. Now, all of these visas need a place to live in, for you to live in, prior to applying for the visa. So make sure to factor in that research time, rental time, even several months in advance to secure the rental before you apply. And an Airbnb, as I said before, will not work in any of these cases. It is not easy to get a visa for Italy, I will tell you. We work on visas of all kinds, all over Italy for all different situations. The consulates are getting progressively stricter, so be sure to present your best the first time you apply. Take the time to prepare and do not underestimate the discrepancy that the consulate has, so always get help. Even at the very minimum, someone review your application before submitting it. Visas for Italy are tricky, so take your time. Pick the right one, the one that will fit who you are now and what you want to do when you get to Italy. And understand the requirements for the immediate visa and for the renewals in the future of your Permesso di Soggiorno. Plan very, very carefully. Now, if you're ready to take the next step, remember that our legal team specializes in helping people like you navigate Italy's visa process. And I have also added the link to our free booklet on Italian visas. And this will help you decide a little bit more about which one is a better fit for you. It's time for listener questions. Just like the old radio call-in shows, my team has picked 3 listener questions, all left on our voicemail. I have no idea what these questions are, but I haven't been stumped yet. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hi, Samantha. My name is Roberta. My heritage is Italian, and I want to move there. The line was cut before I was born, but I'm eligible for citizenship in another EU country, so I've applied there. If I'm approved, I understand that I could legally live in Italy as a citizen of the EU. In that case, would I still need an elective residency visa to apply for Italian naturalization based on heritage once I've lived in Italy for 3 years, even though I would have an EU passport? Thank you so much for your very informative podcast. I appreciate it.
Hello, Roberta. Thank you for that question. It's a very good question. So you're covering a few things. First is you are not entitled to Italian citizenship because your line was broken, either by, I'm assuming it was by your parents or your grandparents. So the goal then would be, how do you move to Italy? Well, one is you can get a visa, which apparently you're thinking of the elective residency visa, or you can be a citizen of another European country, which it sounds to me is the plan. So your plan would be to get a passport from another European country. Once you have that, then you can move to Italy as you have the freedom of movement being a European citizen. And then when you come to Italy, you just establish your residency as you would in any case. And after 3 years of living here as a EU citizen and a permanent or a resident of Italy, you can apply for your Italian citizenship through naturalization. And what triggers that is the fact that you have been a legal resident in Italy for at least 3 years. And it was your mother or your parents or your grandparents that actually broke the line. If all that fits, that you have been living here for 3 years legally, then you can apply through naturalization. A visa is not necessary in your case. In any case, it's not necessary because the visa is only the key to get you in to live here. But you don't need that key because you will get a passport from another European country. So the goal is, as if you were trying to get your Italian citizenship through naturalization faster in 3 years rather than the normal 10, then you just have to get your EU passport, move to Italy, maintain your residency for at least 3 years, and apply for your Italian citizenship. Hope that helps.
Hello. I was wondering if you could tell me how long it would take for you to receive your Permesso di Soggiorno. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to my move to Italy and really enjoy the podcast.
Okay, how long does it take to get a Permesso di Soggiorno? Well, how long is a piece of string? It depends where you live. Unfortunately, some places are it takes a very, very long time. In some cities like Florence, for example, it can take you over a year to get your appointment at the Questura to have your fingerprints and your photographs done. Now, initially, as a reminder, when you come here on a visa, you will apply for your Permesso di Soggiorno within 8 days of arrival at the local post office. And the post office will give you a receipt or give you an appointment when you have to go to the Questura, the main immigration office in the police department, to have your fingerprints and photographs done. And that's actually the Permesso di Soggiorno process. Once that finishes, then you'll get a card and you are good to go. The problem is between the time you apply at the post office and the time that you have your fingerprints can be a long time. Sometimes, as I said, a year could be in Florence. Sometimes actually it's longer, in even longer than a year. I've seen some as long as a year and a half to 2 years, but that's a little bit not out of the ordinary now. In some cities, I know Bologna, we just had a client and it was less than a month. So it is really variable. Just plan on the fact that wherever it is that you're living for your visa, that you will need this place for at least 1 year. Good luck.
Hi, Samantha. My name is Tanya, and I was wondering, what is the hardest visa in Italy to get? I look forward to your response.
Oh, what is the hardest visa to get? It really depends on everyone's situation or the applicant's situation, but I would say that the most complex visa to get, the one that has the most denials and the one that you should try to avoid at all costs if you can, is the self-employment visa. And the reason that is that it depends on a lot of things. First, you need an OSTA, which is a clearance. And you also need to make sure that there's a spot in the decree flussi, which is our immigration numbers every year. And we have click days, which are days that you can actually apply for these types of visas. that are governed by immigration numbers. If you miss those days, it becomes even more complex. The denial rate on a self-employment visa is very, very high. So these days now with a Digital Nomad Visa, I highly recommend that you take a look at your situation, and it's very likely that you can apply for the DNV as opposed to the self-employment visa. Well, that's all for this week's episode. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about visas, citizenship, property, and well, really anything about moving to Italy that you would like me to answer in an upcoming episode, please feel free to send us a voicemail at our website at smartmoveitaly.com/podcast, or just click on the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and remember, you can find all of the resources and the links to the people and the places that I mentioned in this episode inside the show notes. Ciao for now. A New Life in Italy podcast is a production of Sentire Media, created and hosted by me, Samantha Wilson. Production by London Nero, and with special thanks to Ali Frothingham, Sofia Pisana, and the entire team at Sentire. Follow A New Life in Italy wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you're thinking of moving to Italy, whether full-time, part-time, or for a lifetime, come and see me over at smartmoveitaly.com, and we'll help you get here and start living your best life. And don't forget, if you love this episode, please rate and leave a review. It's much appreciated. I can't wait to meet up with you again next week, same time, same place. Ciao for now.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com, that's SENTIRE media.com, and find out how to submit your show.